What's up, guys? It's MB Boxing, and today I'm going to be predicting the outcome of Vergil Ortiz Jr. versus Egidijus Kavaliauskas, and this is going to be a 12-rounder in the welterweight division, and this fight is going to be Saturday, August 14th, from the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco, Texas, and this fight is going to be broadcasted on DAZN, and to get into both fighters' resumes, Vergil Ortiz Jr., fighting out of the United States, holds a record of 17 wins and no defeats, with 17 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked number 14 by BoxRec in the welterweight division. And to list a world title he has won the WBA Gold welterweight world title. And now to list some of his best victories, he has a knockout win over Antonio Orozco, a knockout victory over Brad Solomon, a knockout victory over Samuel Vargas, and he's coming off the best victory of his career, a knockout victory over former world champion Maurice Hooker. And again to his opponent's resume, Egidijus Kavaliauskas, fighting out of Lithuania, holds a record of 22 wins, 2 defeats and 1 draw, with 18 wins coming by way of knockout. He's currently ranked number 10 by BoxRec in the welterweight division. And to list his one lone defeat, it came by knockout to pound-for-pound star Terence Crawford, and that was for the WBO welterweight world title. And to list his one draw, it came by majority decision to Ray Robinson. And now to list some of his best victories, he has a knockout win over David Avanesian, a unanimous decision victory over Juan Carlos Abreu, and he's coming off an 8th-round knockout victory over Mikhail Zutski. And in my opinion, this fight is going to be really exciting and fan-friendly. Kavaliauskas, a power puncher, same with Ortiz Jr. Ortiz Jr. has a 100% knockout ratio. Kavaliauskas has a 75% knockout ratio. And both these guys love to come forward and throw power shots. We saw that with Kavaliauskas against Crawford and against Zutski. Even Avanesian, he just came forward like a tank, landing those shots. And even early on, he gave Terence Crawford a really tough fight. And in my opinion, he did drop him, although the referee did not call it a knockdown. Ortiz Jr. has really showed that he is a really good fighter in his last couple fights. He's really young. He has a lot to grow from, and I could see him 100% becoming a world champion. He reminds me of fighters like Jaron Ennis, young, hungry, powerful. Both these guys, I would love to see them fight, but in a few years, both of these guys could become champions. Ennis and Ortiz Jr., both great fighters, both rising up in the ranks, but they do have to get past tough tests like this. Kavaliauskas is a top 10 welterweight according to BoxRec, and he is higher ranked than Ortiz Jr. And I've seen many people picking Kavaliauskas to get the upset here because Ortiz Jr. hasn't really faced someone that would pressure him like that. Usually the fighters he faces are the ones backing up. Here, Kavaliauskas is a fighter who's not scared to get hit, comes forward, and lands power shots of his own. Ortiz Jr. also loves to do the same as I mentioned before, but just to break down the fight, I see the earlier rounds being fairly competitive, both men landing their shots, and I see Kavaliauskas actually getting the better of them, landing some counter shots, and I could definitely see him being tentative because he has been knocked down before, he has been knocked out, and the thing is, he likes to counter off the outside early on. We saw that against Terence Crawford, where he was landing right hands off the ropes, making Crawford look like an amateur even, just ducking under his shots, countering, and he showed that he is a really world-class fighter that could really compete with those top guys. And really the winner of this fight could fight for a world title, whether it be Kavaliauskas or Ortiz Jr., both these men are fighting for this WBO international belt that Ortiz Jr. did win when he beat Maurice Hooker. And that means that both these fighters will be ranked in the top 5 by the WBO, I believe so. And I believe Ortiz Jr. Is already ranked in that top 5. And I believe the WBO did order Terence Crawford to face Sean Porter for that WBO welterweight title, and I'm not really too sure if that fight is 100% going to happen, but I really hope it does so that the winner of this fight could face either Porter or Crawford. And just to break down the middle rounds, I see Ortiz Jr. getting in a rhythm, possibly scoring a knockdown, landing some good shots of his own off the ropes, and he really needs to pressure more in this fight because I believe he is the bigger man. I'm pretty sure they're close to the same height, but Ortiz Jr. is, in my opinion, just the younger, hungrier man. He is bigger when it just comes to size. He's a big welterweight, But Kavaliauskas has a lot of power. He came in great shape for this fight. Both these fighters, I applaud them for making weight. And I'm really excited for this fight. Both of them train very, very hard. I've been seeing a lot of them on social media, how they've been training, how they've been sparring, and it seems like they're doing great. And I'm very, very excited for it, as I mentioned many, many times before. But the later rounds, I see it being really all in favor of Ortiz Jr. I see him dropping Kavaliauskas, if not twice, maybe even once before, as I mentioned, in the middle rounds. And I see him stopping him somewhere around like rounds 8 to round 12, where Kavaliauskas gets a bit tired, just like he did against Crawford, where he sort of gassed out after having a strong performance in the earlier rounds. I could see him getting dropped and finished on the feet, or even just dropped multiple times, leading to the referee stopping the fight. So overall, I believe that Vergil Ortiz Jr. will defeat Egidijus Kavaliauskas by knockout, and the stoppage will happen from rounds 8 to rounds 12. And yeah, that's really it. I'm MB Boxing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.